Hello, folks. Thank you for listening to Mountain Mule Media, Connecting Montana. I'm your host, Tim Baldwin. This podcast is a production of Mountain Mule Transportation. It was created to help locals and travelers connect more deeply with the businesses and people who make Montana such an incredible place to live and visit. In each episode, I sit down with Montana business owners and community leaders to hear the story behind their work, how they got started, what they've built, and how they help create a better experience for both residents and visitors. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe on your favorite platform. And if you use any of the services or businesses you hear about here, let them know you heard about them from Mountain Mule. And when you need private transportation with Montana's hospitality, please think of Mountain Mule Transportation. Thank you for your support, and I hope you enjoy the show as we keep connecting Montana. Okay, we're rolling. Lindsey Klebenow.
Yeah.
Heart to Heart. What can you tell me about it? What is it? What do you do?
Heart to Heart is home care and adult daycare combo. So we provide in-home care services for the elderly and disabled. We can do anything from 18 to well over 100 years old. And we provide a caregiver that comes to your home, and they can do anything from housekeeping to laundry, showers, assist with taking medications, meal planning, grocery shopping. The lists are endless. And then we have the adult daycare part, which is in our building, and it is exactly what it sounds like. You drop your loved one off, and for the day, we can't do overnight services, and we do activities with them. We have meals, we go for walks, anything and everything that you could think of at a daycare for children, we can do for the elderly. And something unique about us is that we are the first standalone daycare in the state of Montana. So we are not associated with any corporate. We're not associated with any assisted living, anything large like that. I own it, I operate it, and I don't plan to go anywhere or sell it off. So that's pretty cool. It was quite interesting getting licensed because the state licensure folks were like, we've never done this before, so let's figure this out together and how this is going to operate. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Where are you located for if people are dropped off to you?
We are at 161 West Madison Avenue in Belgrade.
Okay.
It's kind of by Town and Country.
Yep.
I always tell people it's right across the street from Fixology and Taco Time, and right next to the Advanced Eye Care.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the hours you operate there out of?
So right now it's client dependent.
Okay.
And so whatever the client needs, we will open at that time.
I gotcha.
We cannot work during dark, quote unquote, dark hours. Obviously in Montana, it gets dark earlier in the wintertime, but we typically cut it off. If somebody needs to stay super late at night for whatever purpose, we can't have them past 11:30 at night.
Okay. But it's generally it's like sun up, sundown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really normal 8 to 5, 9 to 5 operating hours.
And then you'll go to somebody's home if that's something they need.
Yes.
Cool.
That's our primary. That's where we started out is in home care. And then I saw the need during COVID for the adult daycare, and I was like, we really need something like this around here. I brought it up to all our aging coalitions, and everyone looked at me like I had 10 heads, and how do you even do that? And I'm like, I don't know. And they all looked at me and said, well, if you have an idea, you figure it out pretty well, so go for it.
Yeah. It makes sense. Like, I know you gave me some examples, but you were saying like doctor's appointments and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the thought behind buying the building that we are in is to be kind of an aging hub. It hasn't taken off yet. But I want to be that central resource location. So if you have an aging parent or a spouse or an aunt or an uncle that you take care of, you can call us up and say, hey, I need this type of care. Where can you direct me to? And we can be that overall resource.
Yep.
That's the whole point of that.
So they could use your service if needed, or you can point them in the right direction to where they need to go.
Yeah. And even if someone is with so there's multiple home care agencies throughout the state, throughout the valley. And with the daycare, I am 100% impartial. If you are with a Home Instead or with Advocare or Cornerstone or all the other services that are out there, if you have your loved one with them, but you want them to come to the adult day center with their caregiver, you are more than welcome.
Yep.
I'm not going to turn you away. I don't play the competition game. If you want that care provider to bring them in, absolutely. Come on in.
Yeah, that's very cool. And the whole concept is something I didn't think of, but it makes complete sense that everyone's going to get to a point in their life where this is something they're gonna need.
Yeah. And another portion is if someone's traveling, especially if they're traveling through and they're aging, to get like a day surgery in Bozeman, or if they are staying overnight and then they wanted to leave their loved one while they ran to Billings for the day and back, they can use our daycare as that hub as well.
That makes sense. And you said the environment, it feels very much like a natural home.
Yeah. So when you walk in, it doesn't even look like what you would think a facility would look like, or most people don't want that nursing home.
Yeah.
And so our area looks like a house on the outside. It originally was a house and then it's been built on over the years. And so it's still zoned as a residential property.
Yep.
And we just tore out umpteenth million cubicles that I bought it from Stockman Bank.
Oh, interesting.
And so that used to be their insurance building.
Yep.
And when they moved out, they built that big, huge building off of Jackrabbit.
Yep.
So they all moved into there. And we took out so many cubicles.
Oh, that's funny.
And the majority of them were gone, but there were still those massive lags on the wall that we had to pull out and repair. And the building hadn't been updated. It was all burnt yellow. Sorry, Stockman, if you're listening. Terrible idea of burnt yellow walls everywhere.
Yikes.
Even the trim.
It's a lot of primer.
Oh my gosh. There was so much. And the carpet was yellow as well.
Yikes.
You got to be soothing to get your insurance vibes, apparently. But yeah, it took a lot of work, but we did it. We pulled it off and revamped everything. So we have nice white walls. We have all, I wouldn't call them antique, but people younger than us, I call them valuables, on the walls. So we have like an old corner white hutch, and we have all the eclectic stuff from anywhere from the 30s all the way up to the early 90s. For decor, we have a nice brown couch. It's very your typical rustic Montana.
That makes complete sense, because
decor.
if you just the demographic of your clientele, you're not going to want to put them in some brand new, like sleek, everything's white and shiny and it's 2025. That'd probably be very uncomfortable. But if you put them in a more of a natural setting of a home in the 90s or prior to that, like that makes complete sense.
Yeah, I would call it more of like a rustic farmhouse look.
Yeah.
With probably from the 60s.
Okay.
But more like the browns and stuff. It's not.
Sounds like a good vibe.
We don't got green carpet.
Cool.
And definitely got rid of that yellow carpet.
I ask people if there's anything that you do that people don't know about or you wish people knew about. And since I've never even thought of this business, but it makes complete sense. Is there just, what could or should people think about when they think about you and what you do and what type of resource you are?
So we specialize in dementia care.
Okay.
That is where my heart folds for everyone. I will bend backwards for you and be your biggest advocate. It's kind of a hard question because I don't want it to feel like you're in a home.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to walk in and feel like you're right at home. You don't want to leave because you're comfy, you're cozy, and you're always welcome.
Yeah. I can appreciate that because that's how I try to run my entire business. And I would argue that that's how Montana feels in a lot of ways, is it just has a very welcoming, like Montana hospitality is very welcoming and friendly. And it's not this kind of done up thing. It's not this, it's not this big corporate system or, no disrespect to any of those things, but it just feels very fabricated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we definitely are not that. And anyone can walk in. My whole business, the thought behind my business, the whole reason why I got into caregiving was because of my grandma.
Okay.
And she was born and raised out in eastern Montana in Lambert. And we still have the family homestead out there. And a lot of my cousins still live out there. And her parents migrated with her grandparents from Germany. And they landed in Lambert. And when her sister moved away, came out to the Gallatin Valley and met a Dutch farmer out in Churchill. And that's how I'm out there now.
Okay.
And so when my grandma came out to visit her sister, she went to Livingston, where my great aunt lived at the time, or my great great aunt, I guess, right now at the time, lived in Livingston. And my grandma got a job at the original Wilcoxon's confectionery before it was ice cream.
Okay, so what was it for?
It was a confectionery.
Okay.
So they just made candy.
Oh, interesting.
And it's where, I don't know if the Sport is there now still, but it's where the Sport used to be. I haven't been over there in a number of years. So she worked next to Harold Wilcoxon. They managed the confectionery together. And Harold would walk my grandma home every night. And next to where my grandma was living was the old hospital, which was a house. And she met this young man, and Harold was like, "Oh, who is this man coming? He's coming into the confectionery and asking on your days off." And my grandma was like, "That's Walter. He's the janitor and attending nurse." Back when the janitor was the nurse next to the doctor. And Harold was like, "Well, I need to have a talk with him." And he ended up being my grandpa.
Okay.
And so they courted for 2 weeks and then got married.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then they left Livingston and they went back to Lambert. And my grandma had gotten, when she graduated high school, she had gotten 50 head of cattle given to her. And her dad took care of the cattle.
Anyone wants to know what a real graduation present is?
Yes.
I just heard one.
I would thoroughly enjoy 50 head of cattle for my graduation gift. So each kid got that when they graduated. So my grandpa, after they got married, they went back. My grandpa became a police officer in Glendive, and they're only like 15 minutes apart. And they stayed one winter because the house didn't have electric heat. It didn't have any electricity at all that they were living in. And my grandpa, I'll never forget, he goes, "You want to hear some bullshit? Those -52 winters in Montana. That's why we left." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, Grandpa." And so after that first winter, they sold all my grandma's cattle and they bought a 1952 Plymouth, and they each had a couple suitcases, and they went to Washington.
Okay.
And they drove. We had cousins out there. And so they first went to Mount Vernon, and then they found some property that they could buy. It was 10 acres in Anacortes. So geographically, that is the far northwest corner of Washington State in the San Juan Islands. Okay. It's on Fidalgo Island. It is part of the San Juan Islands. It's the only island that's connected to the mainland with a bridge. So they bought that. The there was a little house. They added on to the house, and then the neighbors sold their land, and they bought the house that was on that land and moved it over to their land and started a homestead there. And they turned that old house into a barn.
Okay.
And they added more cattle. They added sheep. They added goats. We always called my grandma the crazy chicken lady because I don't think she ever had under 50 chickens at one point in time in my life. It was chickens, everything. And then she had a ton of rabbits, and they always had a big, massive garden. And so we grew up doing that. Mm-hmm. And then she had my mom and her sister and her brother. Grew up out there. And then, so that was where I was born and raised. So the property that they bought was right next door to what was the beginning of an oil refinery. So, which grew over a number of years, and they ended up buying out a lot of the other small homesteads that had folks there over time. And, so over the years that's grown. It's still massive. It's one of the biggest on the West Coast. And my mom, when she met my dad in high school, they were high school sweethearts, got married. Their second house that they ever lived in was this 900 square foot home. That's what I grew up in. And then my grandparents just took care of me and my brother, because my mom worked for a large fishing cannery called Trident Seafoods. They're massive out there as well. And so she worked for that. My dad ended up, after the ironworks closed, he worked for the ironworks all through high school. After that company closed, he ended up going and working at the refinery. Okay. And so my dad worked nights, my mom worked days. We would always get dropped off at 5:30 in the morning at my grandparents' right next to the refinery. So my dad would load us up, drop us off, and then back and forth. Parents would pick us up and whatnot. So we spent the majority with those grandparents, Walter and Vilma, after, so when they moved out here. So that's kind of where I just learned about this. We call it the sandwich generation, where your grandparents care for the youngers and then the parents fall right in the middle. We all sandwich together. And so that was just how I was brought up. That was normal life. That was your kids always watched your grandparents. Your grandparents always watched the kids. And then the parents would gossip about who was taking better care of the kids.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And it was fun. And my dad's parents were retired. My grandma was a retired school teacher, and my grandpa was a retired naval officer, and he specialized in asbestos at one point and then got out of it. And then they took advantage of that ever-evolving generation where when you retire, you endlessly travel. You don't need to take care of your family because your family can take care of themselves. So they were part of that style generation, where my mom's parents were family always takes care of family no matter what. And you put off your travel plans to take care of your family. And so that's why we were always with them, because my other grandparents were always traveling. And so I just grew up taking care of my grandparents, but I never knew I was really taking care of them.
Yeah.
So it was normal for us. And then November 25th of 1998 hit, and the refinery had a massive explosion, and it killed my dad. And my grandparents lived right next door. And so that my dad our whole town was on lockdown, because when anything happens with that refinery, there's chemicals in the air that you don't breathe. Yeah. You can't breathe. And so our school was on lockdown all day. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, please don't let it be my dad. And my dad was supposed to pick us up from school that day. And my grandpa picked us up. And so we were like, hey, Grandpa, my brother and I were like, Dad was supposed to pick us up. And he's like, yeah, I'm picking you up today. We're going to go for ice cream. So we went down to the old A&W. We had ice cream and you could still see the fire going. I mean, it was just massive. And people were always still standing outside, just watching and talking. And we kept saying, do we know if Dad's okay? Do we know if Dad's okay? And Grandpa says, well, we haven't been able to get a hold of your mom at work, because at that time, Trident had very, very strict family contact rules. You couldn't call, you couldn't communicate, and cell phones weren't really a thing. And so we sat there for a couple hours, and then we went to my grandparents' house, which, I kid you not, is literally max 500 feet from that main gate of that refinery. And we pulled up, and I heard my grandpa under his breath go, oh shit. And my grandpa cussed, but it was that, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I just need to keep these kids close. And that was the first and the last time my grandpa ever held us so tight, he wasn't letting go. Because there was news crews and reporters in our faces. They knew before our families knew.
Oh, wow.
And so we were rushed into the house. My grandpa locked the door, closed the window, the shades on the window. We had Cairo 7 News on, which is my grandparents' favorite news station. And we were watching it. And it said 6 men missing. And my dad's face was on there. And my brother at the time, I was 9 years old. My brother was 6. Didn't really understand what was going on. And I just remember looking at my grandma and grandpa, and they were talking, and they just kept saying, has anyone gotten a hold of Eileen? Has anyone gotten a hold of Eileen? And at this time, we knew something was wrong with my grandma, but we never knew what. And then this event happened, and that kind of went by the wayside. And so my dad's friends started showing up, and they all worked at the refinery too, but they were all off that day, and their spouses, and we all went to school with their kids. And so everyone started showing up. And then it was like an hour later, my mom showed up, and my mom's like, work just told me what's going on. And my grandpa goes, it's been 4 hours. We called them. She's like, they just told me and released me. And so I think that was something that just got ingrained in me. The family communication and always knowing where your loved ones are at all times and knowing what's going on, just being hyper aware of everything. So then it was a long 48 hours, and it was 48 hours later, they finally found my dad. And he had been burned alive. And then that's what we were told.
Yep.
So there was a lot of unknowns for a long, long time. So then us kids, our lives became more ingrained with my grandparents.
Yeah.
And we stayed with our grandparents more and more and more and more. And we kept telling my mom, we're like, something's wrong with grandma. Grandma and grandpa are always fighting. Grandma's always wanting to divorce grandpa. What's going on? And we didn't really know. And that time on the island, we had 3 family doctors in 1 medical practice. That's how small this island was. I think at the time of my dad's death, there was a population of 15,000 total. Okay. And most of them were snowbirds or vacationers. So you're looking at maybe 8,000 to 10,000 people, real small. And you're all related.
Yeah.
Somehow, just like out here. And so we kept saying something. And so I was 9 years old at the time. It was the summer after my 10th birthday. So that following summer, my grandpa said, I can't take this anymore. She's got to go to the doctor. And my grandpa was severe diabetic and blind in one eye. His other eye got shot out with a BB gun when he was younger. Yeah. So he didn't ever want to go into doctor's appointments. He just hated doctors. He said, they're good for nothing. They never help you. They always do more damage. And so I ended up going in with my grandma. And I was paying attention, but it didn't resonate with me, obviously, because my brain wasn't fully developed and I didn't know what I know now. But I remember the doctor coming back and he goes, "Well, Velma, I have some bad news." And she goes, "Well, what is it?" He goes, "You have Alzheimer's disease and we can't do anything about it. If you want to see a specialist, you can drive to Seattle." And he handed us a 2-page paper from the Alzheimer's Foundation of America and said, "This is the only information that I have. There's no medications to help it. Just live your life." And we got in the car and we left and we went home. And so I told my grandpa, and he goes, "I'm not driving to Seattle." They never left the island.
Oh, really?
Ever. It was just puttering around the island in their little Ford Escort car. And so we never went to a specialist, never knew more about it. This was all before the Alzheimer's Association was even a thing. And we just lived our lives the best that we could. And he kept saying, "You know, your grandma's sister and her mom, they were all senile. All those women were just crazy and senile in that family." And I never realized what he was saying until I was older.
Yep.
But I still look back and I replay all those memories and I'm like, man, we were alone. We were left alone. We were uneducated and there was no one around. There was nothing. We had one independent living facility that was like 10 bedrooms on the island. And those people lived there part-time too.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a thing. And so after my grandpa died, my grandma lived with that disease for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
Right before she died, we were out there for Christmas and we saw her and she had no verbal skills anymore. She didn't really know what was going on. She didn't know anyone's names anymore. And I remember the last time I saw her, she said, "Now, who are you?" And I said, "I'm the granddaughter that lives in Montana." She goes, "That's right. You're my favorite." And I'm saying that's my favorite because my cousins are legit freaking a-holes and never helped with our family. And their mom, my mom's sister, ended up exploiting my grandma before she died for over $500,000. And we lost our family homestead out there.
Oh, yikes.
They had to sell. It sold to my other grandparents, a family friend that owns a construction company, and he was contracted through the refinery, so it worked out for him. He did promise to leave the house up until it rotted away and fell down, and he has kept that promise till this day. So I thought it's always very, very nice of him to do that. But she always knew as soon as you said Montana, she knew where her heart was. She knew where she belonged. She knew where her roots were. And she always told me, "You have a place out there. Don't ever leave it. Always follow your roots back." And so when I was 18, I applied for colleges and I came back out and I have never left.
Awesome.
And I don't ever plan on leaving. I would love to move back to Eastern Montana someday. That's just not in my cards right now because I have some young children. But when I came out here and I started college, I started all the prereqs for nursing school. And I was going. And then I got pregnant.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I have clinicals coming up and they want to place me in Great Falls. And I was like, I'm not going to Great Falls alone and pregnant. And so I switched to community health and they had a geriatric program at that time. And everything from my childhood just started flooding back to me. And I was like, I think this is where I'm meant to be. I think this is actually my calling. And so I just kept going with it. And I was like, well, I still want to dabble in nursing, but that was out of the question. Once you're out of nursing school here, you're out. You got to wait years to get back in. At that, you probably don't have a chance. And so I just went into geriatrics and ended up going to EMT school and got my EMT, and then let that go by the wayside because it just wasn't what I wanted to do full time, being a single mom, and it wasn't conducive for that. And so I got into Spring Creek Inn, which is a memory care, specified locked memory care unit here in Bozeman. And I learned so much there that I wish we would have a place like that in Anacortes for when I grew up. But it taught me so much of what, man, I wish I had all of this. I wish I had all of this. And I kept thinking to myself, there's got to be more out there for somebody.
Yeah.
And the more I ingrained myself with the administrators, the more I learned of exactly what not to be. And that taught me so much. And that's when I knew I don't ever want to be a corporate. I don't ever want to be a locked facility. And I don't ever want to work with coworkers that just want a paycheck, that they're just in this for a paycheck, because this is a whole skill set and whole care level that is beyond what anyone could make for a paycheck. It is so fulfilling. And you have to have so much love and empathy for someone and understanding and patience that it's more than a paycheck. It is literally ingraining your life into theirs to understand who they are, to care for them very well. And so then I got out of that after about 4 years, did another assisted living, and was like, I just don't like this. And so I looked into hospice care, and that was another corporation. And that man who interviewed me was so mean. And I was like, I don't want to come work for your company.
Yeah.
You don't treat people nice. He's like, they all die anyway. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yikes.
You do not need to be in this industry. Yeah. And so that made me so angry. And it was like 6 months later, that hospice company went out of business. So I just gave them the middle finger from afar and was like, oh, you don't need to be in here anyway. And then I started in home care. Home care was just starting to flourish. So this was a little over 10 years ago. And I started with this company called Right at Home. It was a corporate company, but I learned that you can, with home care, you buy into these corporations like Home Instead, Visiting Angels, and you locally own it. So you own that portion of the franchise and you're in a contract. So that taught me a lot. And Wendy was the owner, and she was so phenomenal and taught me literally everything that she knew, and so gracious for her. And so I just kept moving, kept going. And then she, this simulator, dementia simulator, popped out, and she's like, you need to go do this. So I did it. And I was like, this is amazing. You literally put on this gear pack and you enter the world of what it's like to have dementia. And I was like, this is a game changer in care. This is a game changer in understanding and education and everything. She's like, yep, and I'm going to sign you up and you are going to run with this. And I was like, okay. So she was the type of person where she would find those niches in me and pull it out of me and help me realize like where I belonged and what I could do and what I was capable of. And she just pushed me. She's like, you're doing it, whether you like it or not. And so I would go do it. And I still, to this day, I have that certification. I am now a master trainer with the Educate Training Institute with their Dementia Live program. So I can go travel the entire state of Montana, train anyone, give them the simulation. And I can also train them to be a coach so they can do what I do in their community, and it's all free.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So I can charge large corporations to go out and train their staff, but any community event is 100% free. Anyone that walks in my door and says, I want to be trained in Dementia Live, absolutely, and it will be free.
That's so cool.
And we kept it, Educate kept it that way because dementia is a very expensive disease. You don't need to be paying for a training that's going to literally deplete every fund that you have, plus some down the road, because the disease is very, very expensive. So it was December 20th. No, probably the beginning of December of 2019. I walked into the office one day and I said, "Where's the staff?" And she's like, "I told them they didn't need to come in today." And I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" She had that look on her face and she goes, "I'm closing." And I looked at her and I go, "What do you mean you're closing?" She goes, "I don't like old people, I realized, and you love them. And this world is not for me. And you need to take it over." And I said, "I don't want to take over this business.
Yeah.
I don't know how to run my own business. What do I do?" And she goes, "I don't know, but you have 2 weeks to figure it out, because I already let corporate know I'm shutting down in 2 weeks." So I started Heart to Heart Home Care in 2 weeks.
Very cool.
I was so ever living scared. I didn't know what I was doing. She had to walk me through it. Thank God she did. And I had my husband by my side. He was super supportive. And he was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "No, I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm doing. But I know that I love the older population and I have to make a difference." And he's like, "Why?" I was like, "I have to do this for my grandma.
Yeah.
I don't ever want people to feel alone in this journey. Like I was left alone with my grandma walking out of that doctor's office.
Yeah.
It is not fair. And it is still happening today. These doctors are not educating you. They're giving you a diagnosis that sometimes isn't even real. It's not even a true thing until you get years into it. They just give you an overall umbrella, which is what dementia is." And so my husband's like, "Well, go for it. We'll figure it out along the way." So that's what I did. I went for it. We told the staff that how we were going to turn over, and they all looked at me and they said, "Do you know what you're doing?" I'm like, "No, can you guys help me?" And every single one of them, there was 34 employees at the time. Every single one of them said, "We got your back. Don't worry. We will all figure it out along the way." They helped me pick our software system. They helped me with everything. And, 3 of those staff I still have today.
Okay. That's
3.
so cool.
Yeah. One works afar from Missoula and the other 2 are here in town.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, so just kept growing. We were in a really small office here in Bozeman, and then, outgrew that. And I was like, I need to expand, but I don't know how. So my friends owned an office building in Belgrade. And I said, I need a place cheaper so I can save some money to expand. And they said, "Well, tell us about this." And so I told them my vision. And they said, "Yeah, just come rent a little office." It was probably the size of this office. Shoved all my stuff in there. Took 90% of my stuff to my house and put it in there. And so I moved in there a year and a half ago. 3 days after I moved in, I looked out the window and people were Stockman Insurance Building, and they were putting up a for sale sign. And I called my friends up and I said, "Hey guys, do you know the Stockman Insurance Building is up for sale?" And they were like, "No." So they own Advanced Eye Care as well. Dr. Kyle Murray was the eye care doctor there. He just retired. And, so I was talking to his wife, Vanessa. I'm like, "Do you guys want to buy that building and I'll rent the whole building from you?" And she goes, "No, you buy it." And I go, "But I just signed a 1-year lease with you." And she goes, "No, we will stop that lease right now. You do everything in your power and you go buy that building and you expand." And I go, "I don't know how to do that." And she goes, "You'll figure it out." My friend at the time had just become a realtor. She just got her license. And I called her and I said, "I need to go look at this building." And she goes, "You're crazy. Do you know how much money that is?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "How are you going to do it?" I said, "I don't know." And so I just kept rolling with it.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks later, I was the new owner of that building.
That's awesome.
And I pulled some strings and I begged and pleaded and went through umpteenth million tax returns. I'm like, why do these people need to know all this information? Like years and years and years and years. And so I bought it, and it took about 3 months to really get it squared away. And the day that I bought it is the day I found out I was officially pregnant with our second IVF baby. So I was like, oh man, I'm going crazy from all these IVF meds. I'm pregnant, so that adds my crazy on top of it. I'm tired, and I just bought this building and I'm way in over my head. So I kind of put all my home care runs itself on the back burner.
Yep.
And people just show up to their shifts. They do. So I just had to do like the billing and the scheduling off to the side. And then I just put my all into this. And I was like, now's my chance to open the daycare. So that's what I did. And it's got tons of offices downstairs that I can't really utilize. It's just too much space. It's a 5,000 square foot building.
Yep.
And so it's too much for me right now. So I put my offices upstairs, hired a rental company. So the downstairs is rental offices. And then the upstairs is our whole living area. And so we got a couch, we got restaurant style tables, but they're the rustic wood. So it doesn't really look like it's a restaurant. We got a lift chair, recliner. We got a big old popcorn machine. I called Wilcoxon's Confectionery and I said, my grandma used to work for you guys. Do you do contracts? And she goes, does your grandma happen to be Velma? And I said, yes, she does. She goes, I'm looking at her picture in my office right now. And I said, you guys still have that picture of Harold and my grandma? Before my grandma died, we brought her out on one last trip. And she went and saw Harold. And he knew who she was and she knew who he was. Right there.
That's so cool.
And it was the coolest thing. And we got pictures. And she goes, what can I do for you? I said, well, I open an adult daycare on the basis and the foundation of my grandma and a home care. And she goes, well, we have these contracts and you can buy monthly supplies of ice cream at wholesale cost. So basically so minimal. And so I got their old school Wilcoxon's freezer set up in there. And I keep it stocked fully with all the different kinds of ice cream. So anyone that walks in that building has unlimited amounts of free ice cream.
Can't beat that.
Cannot beat free Wilcoxon's ice cream. Anybody can walk off the street and come in and just grab an ice cream and walk out. That is something that just was so meaningful and so appreciative to Wilcoxon's to do that. And so I just keep that remnant of my grandma. And I wish there is an old picture floating around somewhere of the original Wilcoxon's inside when it was still a confectionery, but you can never find it. It was like one of a kind. So yeah, and that's where I'm at today. And then just rocking and rolling with the daycare and the home care. And
that's so cool. Thanks for sharing the whole story.
Dementia Live, yeah.
Yeah, it makes it come full circle.
It does. And my grandma, taking it back to Lambert, when her parents homesteaded, her dad's brother, started the first English speaking church over in Lambert that's still standing today.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. So my goal is to get back to Lambert, get into the church and do a Dementia Live there. And that will be 100% full circle for me.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. And probably such a great resource for that community.
It is. Eastern Montana they're very low income out there. And a lot of them are stricken with dementia or a lot of veterans too that came back from wounded war and started farming because they got wounded in the war and they couldn't go back. And now they're still running their farms and they just need more care.
Yeah.
But trying to find employees out there, you think our area is sparse of people. It's way more sparse out there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Tell me your website where people can find you and the best way to find anything about you guys.
So we are hearttohearthomecare.net.
Okay.
And you can call us at 406-577-2399. Or you can even text us because that goes to our cell phone that we carry around.
Okay.
And then any day that you drive by and you see the lights on, you can stop in and say hi. Even if you just heard us and you just want to come in and check it out.
Cool.
Grab a free ice cream.
Are you guys on social media too?
So we have a Facebook.
Okay.
I try to be as active as I can in there, but I grew up on the very beginning side of social media, and I just
You don't
know
have
how
to.
to
Yeah, you don't have to tell
operate
me anything about it because yeah.
People are like, you need to get an Instagram and a TikTok, and I'm like, Facebook is enough for me.
Yeah.
Take me back to MySpace, please.
Yeah. Cool. I'll put your website description, the phone number, everything in the descriptions of this video when I put it out. And I think you're a valuable, huge resource. And I think,
And if you walk in and you're like, I don't need your resource, but I need something else. So we do partner with like Montana Association of the Blind.
okay.
Or if you're traveling through and you're looking for a different home care agency in a different area, or you're looking for a private caregiver as well, or different aging activities around the state, we can find it for you. I have connections everywhere that I can just call up certain people and find out.
Cool. I'll try to get this out and share it with as many people as possible because it's an awesome story and just really cool to see what you're doing for the community.
Yeah, it's fun. Every day I wake up and I like, you have your everyday stressors of staff and scheduling and whatnot. But I still, a year and a half later, I walk out of that building. I'm like, I can't believe I own this. Nobody can ever kick me out.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
Yeah. Props to you for taking that chance and doing something that's huge for the community.
My financial advisor's like, that's never going to pay off. I'm like, yeah. Well, that doesn't matter to me. Money is the last thing that is on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I have to make money to pay my staff, but this year, as of 3 months ago, was the very first time I've gotten to take home a paycheck since I've owned the business.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So for the last 5 years, I never took a paycheck. It all went right back into the business.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. I'm sure a lot of people appreciate it, and I hope a lot more people find you and support you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lindsey.
Thank you.